Hi guys, it's Kahlee here from Adreno Spearfishing. I'm at our Sydney store today and we're going to be going through a bit of information about wetsuits. So the different styles and cuts, the different thicknesses, the different materials that are used and why you need a wetsuit to go spearfishing. So to go spearfishing, it is preferable to have a wetsuit. It's not necessary. You can jump in boardies and go for a swim, but the reason you would wear a wetsuit or a Lycra top is for protection. So protection from all different things. It can be environmental, so protection from corals. It can be protection from the sun so that you're not getting burnt while you're on the surface freediving. And also protection from your own catch. So if you get in a big fish or even a small fish and their spines rake up against your skin, you're not going to get too badly hurt. So there are a few different types of wetsuits in terms of materials. So first of all, you've got closed cell neoprene wetsuits. And this is just the standard neoprene that people think of when you're buying a wetsuit. So it's that nice kind of soft material. A closed cell wetsuit is good for either warmer water or if you're a beginner and you're looking for a steamer, they're generally a cheaper option. Closed cell wetsuits are fantastic because you don't need any kind of lubrication to put them on. You just slide right into them and you just go. So they really offer really great protection as well as warmth. You then move up to your open cell wetsuits. Open cell has kind of like air bubbles that will stick to your skin and provide almost like a second skin. They're really comfortable for freedivers and spearfishers to wear, but you do need to lubricate them. The material of open cell is a little bit almost like sticky and it sticks to your skin, but that means that getting it on without any lubrication will be a nightmare. So use some lube, some baby powder, a bit of conditioner in a bottle with some water, anything like that, and it'll just slide right on and it'll be really comfortable. Open cell wetsuits are a little bit more expensive than your closed cell wetsuits, just because it's a higher quality neoprene. With open cell wetsuits, they are a little bit more fragile, so be careful with fingernails and things like that as you put them on. Whereas closed cell wetsuits, you don't need to worry about that so much. They're much more durable. You then go on to wetsuits that are called smooth skin wetsuits. They can be reversible, or they can just be lined on the inside, which means they're just a closed cell neoprene on the inside, and they've got a smooth exterior. These are really nice wetsuits to wear. There's a few benefits to them. First of all, having the closed cell inner lining means that you can just slip the wetsuit right on. You don't need any lubrication or conditioner or anything like that to get it on, which is a huge bonus. Having a reversible or smooth skin wetsuit also means that you don't have to get wet or cold when you're putting your wetsuit on, which is a great bonus. They also provide quite a bit of wind chill protection. So as soon as you get into the boat, the smooth skin exterior just protects you from all that wind that's coming through. It also helps to keep you warmer on the boat because you don't have the cold air that is caused by evaporation. So with a neoprene wetsuit, you will get that cooler kind of feeling, but with a smooth skin wetsuit, it's much warmer. It also dries as soon as you get into the boat. Obviously, that smooth skin exterior, as soon as you get out, it's really nice and warm in the boat. Smooth skin wetsuits are a little bit fragile though, so I wouldn't recommend it if you're going hunting for crayfish or you know, in really shallow water, scraping up against the bottom, things like that. You do have to be a little bit careful as well when you're putting them on, that you don't rip them. But for the most part, they're durable and there's a lot of great benefits to a smooth skin wetsuit. We then move on to Lycra suits. So Lycra suits are fantastic if it's really warm water, so North Queensland, Northern WA, places like that. When putting a wetsuit on, you can just actually get really dehydrated because you're actually warmer than you think. So a Lycra suit is great for protection, but it's not going to provide you with any kind of thermal warmth at all. Do make sure though, when you're getting a Lycra suit or a Lycra top, that it still has a loading pad. So a loading pad means that when you're loading your gun on your chest, it's going to be much more comfortable. It provides a little bit of protection there. Without that, you're going to have a pretty bad time. The other stage to wetsuits that you can look at are thermals. So thermals can be added to your wetsuit just for a bit of extra warmth. They come in a couple of different styles. They can have a fleece lining, which is about a 1 millimeter thick wetsuit equivalent, or sorry, just in thickness, but warmth, it would be about a 3 millimeter equivalent. or you can get titanium lining. Titanium is much thinner, so you're not going to need to worry about it interfering with the size of your wetsuit because it's not bulky at all. But they will provide fantastic extra warmth if you need some extra layers. There are a few different cuts when it comes to wetsuits. Generally, entry-level spearfishers and freedivers will start with a steamer. This is an example of a really popular steamer for entry-level spearfishers. It's closed cell, so it's just straight neoprene, a really cheap suit. It's got nice knee pads for if you're on the bottom. It's got a loading pad that we talked about before, and just a general zip function at the back. So these are a great option because they're 3 mil, so they still provide quite a bit of warmth, but they're not as comfortable as your open cell or your 2-piece wetsuits. You then move on to 2-piece wetsuits. 2-piece wetsuits are preferable for spearfishers because they provide a bit of extra warmth at your core. So if you can imagine, you've got your long johns or your pants, and then you've got your top over there as well. So that's providing a double layer of protection at your core where you need that extra warmth most. So 2-piece wetsuits are also really comfortable. The other thing to consider with 2-piece wetsuits is whether you'll go for a long john style, which is almost like overalls, or where you'll go for the high cut waist pants style with the bottoms of the 2-piece wetsuit. There's a couple of differences between these, and it's really personal preference. With the long john style, it does provide that extra warmth. So if you're diving in colder water, it is really beneficial to have that bit of extra warmth and protection up the top. High-waisted pants are beneficial because it's easy to access if nature calls. You can just lift your top up and pull your bottoms down, whereas if you're wearing long johns, you would need to take your whole top off and pull them down that way. So high-waisted pants are good for that. If you do find that the wetsuit you want only has long johns, but you would prefer the high-waisted pants, you can actually just chop off the high-waisted pants area. I know the founder of Adreno, he does that quite often with his long johns. He just chops it up nice and high, don't go too low because they can fall down a little bit. But yeah, just chop it off and then you've got waisted pants. One of the last things to consider when buying your wetsuit, and probably the most important because they do provide you with that essential warmth, is thickness. So when considering what thickness wetsuit to buy, it really depends on the area that you live in. So if you're living in southern Queensland, for example, the temperatures can really vary throughout the year. It can be best to have one of each thickness wetsuit, a 1.5 mil for summer, a 3 mil for when it's in those in-between months, and then a 5 mil for winter. This will ensure that you're warm all year round, and warmth is a really important factor for staying calm and comfortable in the water. So if you're somewhere like southern Queensland, where the water temperature can range from anywhere from 16 degrees in winter right up to 28 degrees in summer, you might want to just have one wetsuit because when you're starting out, often that's all you can afford. They're not that cheap. So what you can do is get a 3.5 or a 3 millimeter wetsuit. And then in summer, you might opt to just wear your 3.5 millimeter top if you've got a 2-piece wetsuit with some boardies on the bottom. And then in the kind of normal in-between months, wear your full wetsuit that will keep you nice and protected. And then in the winter months, if you're getting a bit cold, you can always add some thermals under your wetsuit to keep you warm. So wetsuit thicknesses generally fall into about 3 groups. You've got your 1 millimeter to 2 or 2.5 millimeter group, which is for that warmer water. Then you've got your 3 to 5 millimeter group for that little bit cooler water, and then your 7 millimeter group for the really cold water. So what thickness you get just depends on where you live and what the temperature of the water will be like. Generally in that 16 to 19 degrees, I'm in a 5 millimeter. Anything from kind of 24 to 28 degrees, I'm in a 1.5 millimeter, and then in between, I'm most comfortable in a 3 millimeter. The final thing to consider when you're purchasing your wetsuit is colour. So some people, if they're diving in nice blue, clear water, will go for a blue camo wetsuit. If they're diving in the rocky terrain, looking for crayfish or anything like that, they'll go for a brown wetsuit. And then if they're diving on the reef, they'll go for a bit of a mix-up multicolour green wetsuit. The final thing to mention with wetsuits is that there's a couple of accessories that you can get to look after your wetsuit. So with open cell wetsuits and smooth skin wetsuits, like I mentioned, they can be a little bit fragile. You can get little nicks in them and things like that. It's generally not that big of a problem, but you can get some high quality neoprene glue. We've got a few different options here at Adreno, and just really easily patch up those small nicks in the suit, or even if you get a tear, neoprene glue will fix that right up as well. And the final thing, wetsuits can, especially your closed cell neoprene wetsuits, they can hold on to a lot of bacteria and smells. So a wetsuit wash will really help to neutralize any bacteria or growth in your wetsuits that can develop a bad smell over time and just prolong the life of your wetsuit as well. So there you go. That's about everything you need to know about wetsuits. Just to give us a call anytime if you're not sure about the thickness that you need on your wetsuit, or you can leave us a comment online. Come and see us at our Sydney or Brisbane stores or shop online at spearfishing.com.au.
Thanks for watching this episode of Adreno's how-to videos. If you'd like to view more videos, just click here. And please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel by simply clicking on the subscribe button here. To purchase these products, stop in at one of our store locations in Brisbane or Sydney, or visit us online at spearfishing.com.au.